Hello and welcome to the M Word, where we have uncensored conversations on all things marketing. We're your hosts, Jennifer Mulchandani
and Heather Michaelgard. For Season 2, our conversations are focused on brand. Listen in for ideas you can use for your brand. Enjoy today's episode.
Today, we're joined by Navare Carter from Intuitive Create in Houston, Texas. Navare is a passionate brand therapist and multi-award-winning designer.
Navare shares how brand is an investment, not a creative indulgence, and describes a unique perspective on brand that is focused on building a tribe. As the founder of Intuitive, he brings a decade of design experience with exceptional knowledge in brand strategy.
We hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the M Word, Navare. We're so glad you're here today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
How you doing, Heather?
Navare, when you hear the word brand, what does that mean to you?
The word brand to me means community. I love the fact that, with brands, it just expands the opportunity to grow on just a single idea or a single solution to a problem that a community of people have. And the more that you offer that value in your services or your product, the community begins to grow. And the next thing you know, you brought together a tribe of people who suffer with the same issues that you're able to help them solve their solutions to their problems. And as long as you continually do that, it will continue to go and grow. And then also the people around you, you're able to unify people from that. And I think that's like the beauty of like creating a brand.
I think your definition is pretty cool because it's like you define brand almost like a verb, like it's an action as opposed to this static thing. So can you talk to us about like when did that come to you? Was that something you thought about early on and you said this is how I think about brand? I'm a branding expert and I do this for a living, or is that something that you evolved into believing or knowing?
I would definitely say it evolved over time, just out of from my experience, fulfillment and also perfectionism and growing outside of that. So just starting out like learning what a brand is, and with it, the definition that usually everybody goes with is, it's a feeling, about how somebody feels about a particular product or service or whatever, that compels them to buy or make a decision or whatever. And that's very true. But ultimately, outside of that, like, how do you even get to that point? Like the definition, like it sounds great, but then when you are planning action and executing on a day-to-day process, it's like, how do you get somebody to view something that you have to offer in a special way where like they really value it, or it gives them chills, or it gives them certain memories, or, like any real emotional connection to you. And the more from like my experiences from just like failures and then trying to be perfect or copying like what I've seen somebody else do that was successful and didn't work for me, I started to like really sit back and just live life and then analyze it from that way, where it's like, you know what, I'm good at doing this. And I know I've helped people with this over time, but after a while, I started realizing my clients were having similar issues, and I really started connecting the dots. And once I realized that, it helped me to market better to my clients and my audience by simply talking to like the pain points, and also me just being honest with my challenges of, trying to build my brand and my business, of what things that were setbacks for me and how I overcame them, and just share that with them. And then it just helps people feel okay to be human, or, to be more transparent with issues that they have. And that, just give them, possible solutions that you have to like overcome it. And after that, when it works, it's just kind of like, oh, I just keep repeating this every single day and I'm gonna get better at it and I have more to offer. And then that's when I looked at it from a different way, from like that aspect, because that way it's more fulfilling for me. That's like I'm making real change rather than just like counting numbers. Like it happens as a byproduct. But, the other half of making real change towards people it made me realize more also that relationships were more valuable than money, right? And the more I started valuing the person that I'm helping, the more opportunities came after that grew, into more success because of that. And then when I started looking at it from that model, it brings fulfillment, but then also it brings the success and everything else that you want outside of it. So then it just becomes a way of life where it's just like, oh, there's freedom in this.
So is that your brand then? Intuitive Create? Is that what you were just defining? That is that how you define your brand, or how would you, if someone just on the street says so, like what is your brand essence? What does your company's brand mean? How would you define that?
Definitely. I vision wise, I wanted to pretty much inspire other creative entrepreneurs to really just believe in themselves, that whatever they have that's special, they think that's just no big idea, or it's just like people don't really care about that or what I have to offer. No, like they do care. You'll be surprised how something that you deal with that nobody talks about is something that a lot of people deal with, but nobody has stepped up to be the hero, to be the voice to speak on it. And the second you decide to do that, you will see the results and how uplifting it is. Because I went through a phase where like I was failing tremendously, because when I first started out, I didn't know the business of design. So I was just really good at designing. But then when I went to really start an LLC and quit my job and go into it full time, I didn't know about, having slow seasons and what to do and how to prepare yourself for that. So I got myself in a lot of financial trouble during that time. And, after I grew from that, I really was able to help a lot of people when I was transparent about it. Because it really showed the fact that a lot of people deal with different things like that. But, we look at social media, different outlets like that, people don't share their failures. They're more so sharing their successes. And it's part of the process. And it's really the area people need help in, at the end of the day, in order to get the results that they want. And sharing that, led another avenue or of growth and evolution within my brand. So then since I built it off of that, I was just kind of like, that matters in itself too. Like that's the actual real problem a lot of people have. Like share that. And just me sharing that, added an extra avenue for me to actually really build a brand off of, where people would come to you as kind of like the voice of the hero to talk about, struggles and things like that and how you overcame them. And everybody can help each other and talk about it. And everybody's growing. But at the end of the day, like, your brand or business will grow even more because of that.
So Navare, I want to talk to you about your transition or evolution from design to strategist. And you don't see that often. A lot of times someone will just do strategy or someone will just do design, but you're doing them both. You started in design and then merged to brand strategy. How did that happen? And does the ability for you to also do the brand and the strategy, does it help you with your design? Or do you find yourself designing better? Are you more creative? And which do you do first?
Well, I stumbled upon it honestly because I was doing strategy as part of my process and didn't realize it was strategy. I thought it was just part of the design process, and I wasn't charging for it at all. And the more I started going to more networking events and really getting more in a network of other designers and strategists, as well as when I learned, what strategy really was. And it's a whole separate ball game in itself. And it also helped me to really, like you said, create better designs at the end of the day, because you really understand the problems that you're really solving for clients. But then also understand the real cause or solution that you're really doing with design. Like you're communicating visually a brand's or business identity. And sometimes people struggle because they don't know what their identity is and they're not good at communicating it. And sometimes it's not always a design problem. Sometimes it's just a communication issue.
I love your comment that you were doing strategy. You just didn't know that that was not you didn't know. You weren't charging for it. It was just it naturally to your own process was something that you were incorporating in how you approach design. Um, eh, do you in your experience working out in the design world now, do you think that is that something that's taught to designers as part of their formal design training, or is that something that just comes from your own brain because you happen to be a strategist naturally? Or was that a learned skill?
Mm, um, I'm not sure if they are teaching that in design school now. I know when I went, there they wasn't. Um, so I think over time, it for me it was just kind of like a learned skill, um, and also just getting advice from like mentors or whatnot. But I stumbled upon it the more I learned the business of design is the more I learned, the value in offering that strategic solutions to things. But then also gave me more clarity in understanding how I'm designing, who I'm designing for, and the best way to communicate that. So it really took me down another path to really understand like this is visual communication at the end of the day, or graphic communication, you want to call it. But it's really built upon strategy and the best strategic way to explain or communicate a message or value through images, words, and visuals as a collective together.
So I'm just thinking about our listeners. If they know they need, I think often clients come to us, those of us in the creative fields, because they know they need a deliverable, right? Like in their mind, they know they want a new website, or they know they need a brochure, or they know they need things to hand out at a trade show. They think in the deliverable sense. Like, are there questions that businesses should be asking their potential designers to suss out that strategy part of it? Like, how can they know, are you going to bring strategy to this? What would you recommend somebody ask their potential designer?
Um, I would say that they should. Well, it really starts with the conversation on, whatever we're designing or creating. Like, who are we doing this for? Who's benefiting from this? And who are we targeting? Who are we communicating to? If you don't have clarity on that before you design something, then that's when it's a telltale sign. You need strategy in place, because that clarifies the vision, that clarifies the messaging. And if you don't, you will fall down into like the rabbit hole of even being a designer, whether you're working for somebody or you are a freelancer or you own your own business, where you get a lot of back and forth. So you have red flag clients, right? You don't have the ideal experience you would want to have with ideal clients where it goes smooth and they trust you as an expert, and they're paying you your worth and everything like that. Or you get a lot of pushback, and the client, they don't know what they want and it's unclear, and you're just trying things, and you run into like gray area and red area margins, and profit margins in your business doing that. So really it's just with strategy off the jump is needed. And with clients who feel like they don't really need that or value that, um I really just try to like persuade them that you can't afford not to have this. You have the vision, and I want to create it though. But if there's no clarity in it, even for me, then how can somebody else that you're trying to express this to understand what you're actually trying to sell or, offer to them to help them? And there's multiple different ways to explain it to them, but in a way that, what I mean, like their mindset shifts that, it's an investment and not a creative indulgence at the end of the day.
So Navare, I want to pivot just a bit. I'd love to hear about which projects or brands that you've worked on that were the most fun. What really got you excited and lit you up?
I would say the funnest project I've worked on. That's a great question. I had a client that was in Virginia one time. He was starting a lifestyle clothing brand. It was fitness clothing line. that he was starting out, and he had a storefront, and he was trying to go online with it, to take over in the e-commerce side of it. It's right before the pandemic happened, and that was fun because that was like my first brick and mortar client. So I was actually able to go in person and actually see the storefront and how they're operating on a day to day and everything out. So it really brought everything to life because you could see the results of your work happen in real time, and get to meet the staff and everybody else. um I'll definitely say that definitely was, the funnest project I've had, in real time. I'll definitely say that.
What about the most challenging?
Oh man. Yeah, one thing I would say the most challenging one I've had, and I can't talk much about it because there's an NDA. But it's for a dating website for a client in California. And it was challenging because like I've never built a dating website for anybody, so I didn't have like a lot of knowledge on it, which was expressed. But at the same time, they was new to that field and industry, and it was challenging because there's so many things you have to really think about, in terms of a user. I never really used dating websites like that, so so it was just kind of like to try to think like how somebody would want to operate, or the experience to be, as far as navigating through it, to get the results you want, to match people up, that was definitely challenging.
So, you know, for your clients, because you help folks, whether that's a brand new company identity, website collateral, or a rebrand. Uh, well, how do you like? What is your advice to businesses on sort of the challenges in launching a new brand or a rebrand, or the besides getting through the creative process, which you're there to guide them through, like what else are you seeing or experiencing, or guiding your clients on around challenging challenges?
um I would say it depends on the size of the business. If I'm working with a solopreneur, um, a lot of times it's, well, when we get down to the root cause of it during the strategy session, it's really just like limiting beliefs. And usually the challenge I start to realize is like mindset at the end of the day, like how they're viewing themselves, their vision, and how big their vision is. Oftentimes really comes down to, and I'll share a jewel with this, is when I have a discussion on like what their financial goals are, in a sense. And whatever number that people come up with, sometimes people give up realistic numbers, and not like really like shoot for the stars, aim for the moon type numbers. Um, and just asking like, why do you feel that way? Like, what I mean, like, I know you didn't get into this business just to get by or whatever. And that really narrows down to like, how they really view themselves, or the confidence or self-belief or anything like that. And then kind of like changing that mindset to help them to really get the vision out, like what they really want to accomplish, because that's really just setting them back. So that limited belief is carrying on into everything else that they do. So they're not even speaking their truth of what they actually want to do or provide, or what they want to accomplish, because out of fear or anything else. So it's almost kind of like therapy at times. But if it's a bigger business, then sometimes with it comes down to like operating procedures or SOPs in place. I don't get too much into it though, but sometimes things like that could like manage, really create the internal issue within a business to getting the result outside of what I'm bringing. So I try not to deep dive too much into that because I'm not a business coach. However, though, but sometimes when it comes across, it's just something to bring up that I do with clients sometimes.
I also think there's a hesitancy or fear in investing in brand, because if you're doing it well, it can get expensive. and it is an investment. So what would you say to those listening who are questioning whether or not they should invest in their brand?
I would say that it really boils down to like what your values are at the end of the day. And if you value things that are like unintangible by numbers, you can go as far as you want to go with it. But it really just it's really like a subjective answer at the end of the day that really the biggest, investment I could say from it is freedom. I would say that you get out of return from it. And also relationship, kind of bring it for what I was saying before, because of the fact that like those relationships you build with clients, I think everybody's different. For me, when I do have clients, I like to really uh, have genuine relationships with them. Some of them I've grown to know their families, have dinner with them or whatnot, and it's because I really want to get to know people outside of just a standard transaction, and that leads to more opportunities where it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like life. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of like I'm getting paid to live my life, to do something I love to do, that I'm good at doing. And I would rather build a brand that way, where it's a lifestyle, realistically, where it's kind of like, if I do have this client afterwards when I'm done, if I need help or an opportunity or something like that, I can reach out to my network. And it feels like family, at the end of the day. And that's pretty much it, for the most part. I was
So Navare, like based on all the things you're talking about, I just keep hearing in my own brain, like it's authenticity, it's purpose, it's there's like a human goodness and that connection. You keep using these words, connection and community. So with that lens, as for you, what is at the core of brand? Like what are the brands out there that people may or may not know that are getting it right, that are doing it well? Are there any national brands that you think are hitting the nail on the head?
Wow, that's a really good question.
They pay you the big bucks to ask the big questions.
I would say, well, I would start locally before I do international. One local brand in the DC area that I really do like. It's an up and coming clothing brand, but it's because I've seen their journey from the beginning to like where they are now, and I'm inspired so much by it. And it's called Dreams of Triumph. And I literally seen them grow from just an online e-commerce business to doing very creative pop-up shops around the DC area. And that brought in the community, that brought in, so many different like vibes and like atmospheres in a sense of that the lifestyle that he's trying to sell off with the brand, of motivational and inspirational quotes and different things like that, and a healthier way of living. Seeing that come into reality, with these pop-up shops, and then me also like traveling and moving and actually personally ran into somebody last weekend. I was wearing the clothing line, in Houston, and I was just kind of like, wow, just to see this like really grow from just an e-commerce business to like you actually showing and living out the lifestyle that you're showing on, on Instagram, that, the whole brand. And then also he donates money to different causes every single different new season or drop that he comes out with of his line, whether it's for kids in needs, whether it's for the homelessness. That is one brand that I actually seen like really truly live by their core values, and actually seeing how this operates in real life and how it pays off. Other than that, like international brands that I'm really fans of, I think we all know I'm definitely a big fan of Apple. I love Apple. I'm team MacBook, but I also am team Android at the same time. I know, like it doesn't coincide, but I definitely love the Apple brand. It's just innovative. At the end of the day, that's the one word I can really honestly say is just extremely innovative. Yeah. I don't want to name too many other big brands. I know there's not a sponsorship by them, but yeah, I definitely do. I definitely love Apple for sure.
Well, Navare, this has been an awesome conversation, and I love your approach of bringing people together and community and authenticity. For those who want to connect with you, how do they find you?
Sure, they can find me on social media at Instagram, Facebook, at intuitive_create. You can also find me on YouTube at Navare22 and my website at intuitivecreate.com.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad you could join us today, Navare, and we look forward to seeing more brands that you can touch and influence. So good luck with your business, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me again. And
of course.
It was awesome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The M Word. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter.
And we'd really love it if you would leave us a review.
Until next time, don't be afraid to be uncensored.
The M Word is an Arlington Strategy production hosted by Jennifer Mulchandani and Heather Michaelgard. Our theme music is Golden Reflections of the Sun by Vlad Glushenko.
Graphic design by Kayla Fagan. Sound engineering and editing by Ben Mulchandani and Nina Sofia Pacheco.
Editing by Nina Sofia Pacheco and Janelle Walters.